This is Lance Gordon, The Philosophy of the Ananke. We are up to part 13, which is the end of chapter 5, going into chapter 6. So we have a little bit more of metaphysics to go, and then we have Ananke and world affairs. Let us continue where we left off. Let me get on the book here. Our purpose beyond survival. We have now speculated that our soul must reside in the state of equilibrium called the body. It is an opposite to this expression of form. It is needed by the body in order to be alive. Moreover, the soul resonates upon death and transmigrates its spiritual energy into a new unique form. The properties of awareness and inclination are transferred. This will happen an indefinite number of times in the future, and it has happened an indefinite number of times in the past. Our form has changed, and our inclinations have changed, but our awareness that we exist as an entity has not. Our soul has, quote, lived, and will live forever. God has lived and will live forever. Spirit cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transmigrated from one form to another. So for now, we are all stuck here on Earth. Most probably, we will return to Earth in our next life. If we commit suicide, we can eliminate our memory, restore our perceived energy, but our inclinations may deliver us in a worse condition. Therefore, suicide should only be used as a last resort. We can only hope that those who take that road are given a better chance in their next world. But for the majority of us, life is not that terrible. We have pain, but it is bearable. Do we choose the path of least resistance and live a mediocre life? Should we merely try to survive in a least negative way? Is it enough to live and let live? That depends on our position in life. If it takes all of our energy to obtain the necessities of life for ourselves and our families, then this is enough. God wants balance for all. Martyrs are not demanded. On the other hand, if material necessity is achieved, then we are requested to change our personalities towards the better. We are requested to change our behavior toward the flow of Ananke. We are requested to fulfill this purpose as well. And we are requested to do God's work. 1. By learning how to help others in a win-win way. 2. By helping others learn how to help themselves. 3. By learning how to choose those who deserve help. 4. By bringing states of imbalance back into harmony in a least negative manner while preserving our own state of contentment. 5. By promoting tranquility for our turbulent selves and for our turbulent families. 6. By filling the needs of our community through the use of good business and charity. 7. By dealing with disturbances in a proper manner. By following the path of least destruction and due process of negative escalation, and by promoting peace and an improved state of welfare for all the things on earth. So life becomes full of purpose, beyond mere survival. We should learn the proper lessons in order to achieve a balance within ourselves. Simultaneously, we should help others to achieve peace as well. In this manner, we begin to realize the Ananke and understand that the order is good. Slowly, we acquire an educated faith in this Ananke as we see its logic unfold. Slowly, we acquire an educated belief and trust in the Ananke as we see the patterns reveal themselves. Slowly, we begin to feel our reward and an improved state of happiness. Slowly, we begin to realize God through understanding its order, the Ananke. We begin to produce the right behaviors by our own free choice. We begin to seek peace, harmony, and happiness for all because we begin to know that it is the right way. If survival is necessary, then peace, harmony, and happiness for all becomes inevitable. For reincarnation is a perpetual process. The pain and pleasure that our souls feel are motivating forces that pressure us to creating a perfect balance here on earth. For our own self-interest, we will achieve this goal or perish trying. If the life form called man survives, then our ultimate goal will be realized. The world will be at peace. Tranquility and balance will prevail. There will be no war. There will be no need for further weapons. Prosperity will prevail. Science will extend life to its limits. There will be no famine or disease. The world will be a unity, a reflection of the way. All souls through transmigration will emerge, cleansed of their impurities. The process will be complete. A perfect balance will be achieved. God's kingdom will be established here on earth. Chapter 6, Ananke and World Affairs. Introduction. Our investigation into the appealing concept called Ananke is nearly complete. The reader might still desire more speculation, but the factual data to support or reject this conjecture does not exist to this point in time. Many speculative questions can be posed, such as 1. If God, soul, matter is opposed by space, then do counterparts exist in the space dimension? Is there an opposite to God that resides in space only? Is there an opposite to soul? 2. If everything has an opposite, then where does the logic stop? Is there an opposite to the entire universe as well? Is there an anti-universe? 3. If reincarnation exists, then what is the detailed process? Is there an evolution of soul from the lower creatures to man and beyond? Can a soul go backwards, as some cultures suggest? 4. If there is an evolution of soul, then where did the initial souls come from? 5. We speculated that all souls always existed like God itself. If this is true, then shouldn't all souls have evolved to perfection by now? At the very least, shouldn't all souls be equally imperfect by now? 6. If all souls always existed and are equally imperfect, then why are some privileged to be men and women while others are birds and insects? Or it might be vice versa. 7. If souls did not always exist, then they emerged from something like a god, a supreme spirit. If souls had a beginning, then God should have a beginning, since spirit properties should be the same. If God had a beginning, then who or what gave birth to it? Where does this logic stop? 8. We speculated that the universe is perpetual. It always was and always will be in motion. It always existed. It will always exist. But how can birth and death be a basic pattern to all things and not to the universe itself? If all souls, God, and the universe existed always, then where's the purpose to it all? Perhaps the only purpose is peace and balance over an infinite amount of time, but is eternal peace and balance forever a good enough goal? 9. On the other hand, if there is a beginning, then who or what began it? 10. If God began it, then God must be independent of matter. If it's independent of matter, then why would it create this imperfect universe, which is composed of matter? Why would it create the suffering and pain of life? Why would it torture ignorant creatures if it were really omnipotent? Doesn't life become a practical joke if we assume a beginning to the universe by way of a God? 11. Even if God began the whole process, then who created God? Who created the thing that created God? And so on. 12. If God had no beginning, then we could have stopped the logic at the universe having no beginning. After all, it's the same mind-boggling conclusion. At least the universe conjecture delivers us the purpose of peace and balance forever. Although these questions would be interesting to discuss, they have absolutely no hard factual data associated with them. We may discuss these issues in some future update, and in fact, just to let you know, we do discuss some of them, and it's appealing what we get. Anyway, we may discuss these issues in some future update, but it could be difficult to test the resulting conjectures. We probably could not support the deductions with evidence. Only logical speculation could be utilized without factual testing. Theory without factual testing is interesting and perhaps needed, but it is not a true scientific process. This is not the way to approach the truth. The logic and factual data must be utilized in order to validate the thought process. For example, numerous logical scientific theories have been revised or rejected when hard fact came to bear. The Wright brothers could not have succeeded without trying to fly their quote-unquote theory. Therefore, until parapsychology obtains factual data to support or reject logical speculation, we must necessarily end our speculative discussion here. Thus, it is imperative that the study of the mind be supported, as long as it is conducted in a rigorous scientific manner. We must learn more about this non-matter phenomena called mind. Scientific experimentation on the properties of mind should be done. ESP, psychic experiences, and the like should be tested in a scientific way. And many have been tested and they fail. So the question is to do it in a proper scientific way with control groups and the actual testing groups itself. Hypotheses should be formulated, control groups should be set up, that's what I was saying, and experiments should be designed so that we may uncover the truth from deception or wishful thinking. This is important research, since the mind is the gateway to the understanding of purpose and God. Until then, the factually based conclusions of Ananke give us plenty to work with. Let us review the deductions that were based on factual evidence. 1. There is abundant evidence that the 4 highest patterns of the Ananke are real. This theory is testable and can be tested by each one of us via intent or simply observation. For example, do things tend to become organized into systems of dynamic equilibrium? Yes or no. Do disruptions occur every now and then to these systems? Yes or no. Do opposing forces emerge to bring the imbalance back into equilibrium again? Yes or no. Is equilibrium achieved once more? Yes or no. For the most part, did the forces act in a least destructive manner? Yes or no. Could more destruction have occurred? Yes or no. Do the governments of the world seek peace or total annihilation? And so on. 2. There is abundant evidence that the universe acts as if it were manifesting one set of patterns that are consistent in time and space. Stars are round and not square. Galaxies condense in similar ways. Spaceships, their electronic guidance systems, and other apparatus work on Mars as well as on the Earth. Electricity acted the same way in 1920 as it did in 1984, and even in 2017 as I record this. All the evidence points to the same conclusion. The universe is undivided in its behavior and is therefore one in that sense of the word. 3. There is abundant evidence that the universe has a single ultimate tendency at this point in time, the tendency towards balance, and its ultimate dynamic equilibrium systems that it generates is apparent everywhere. This tendency is the primary pattern of all things. In essence, we can view this primary pattern of the universe as its goal or purpose. So the universe is one and has a singular purpose or goal, at least in this phase of its expansion and manifestation. 4. There is abundant evidence that our consciousness and awareness does exist in billions of independent creatures. Many creatures create tools and therefore must think occasionally. Many creatures have distinct personalities that differentiate them from others of their kind. This uniqueness may indicate a conscious choice process and consequently suggests a consciousness as well. There is abundant evidence that survival of the species is a primary purpose to life. This is not to say that we have a factual basis as to the reason why survival is a purpose of all life. We have speculated a reason, but this has no fact to support or deny it. 6. At the very least, we can say that there is abundant factual evidence that life has the purpose of survival, even though we may not know why. 7. In addition, the universe has the purpose of the balance among all things and the creation of dynamic equilibrium systems that continuously adjust to the inevitable changes that must occur as we expand from the Big Bang. Since life is a product of the universe, it would follow that life has a secondary purpose of the balance among all things as well, and the creation of other life forms, other dynamic equilibriums. The creation of dynamic equilibrium systems while continuously seeking peace among all things is the overall goal of our universe, and of us, by extension, within this phase of its expansion. 8. Thus we have concluded from a reasonable amount of evidence, and not a single bit of speculation, that life has consciousness, a primary purpose of survival, and a secondary purpose of peace and balance for all. 9. We concluded from logical speculation the properties of soul, spirit, and God. We deduced without facts that reincarnation was possible through a mechanism similar to the resonance phenomena in science. 10. We we found that a speculation existed that could support the previous factual deductions of the Ananke. In other words, the speculated spiritual scheme of things fit into the factually based patterns and did not violate them. Nonetheless, we must firmly realize that logical speculation without factual testing is merely logical speculation and nothing more. It is not as valid as conclusions number 1 through 8. It is as possible as any other speculated scenario, and may even be more probable since it fits into the factual scheme and does not contradict it. It is reasonable to believe that speculations which contradict the factual patterns of the Ananke are less likely to be true. And so, speculation beyond the previous chapter will not be addressed for now. However, there are some remaining questions to be answered before we close this book on the concept of the Ananke and its consequent philosophic implications. They are as follows. 1. Given Ananke's logic, why is there starvation, disease, and war in the world? 2. Should we help the starving people of the world? Does it really matter? 3. How can we interpret Ananke in order to learn how to help properly? 4. Do we have a good chance at world peace and prosperity, or will we become extinct like the dinosaurs of the past? 5. Can functional, practical philosophy help us towards the goal of peace? 6. Do we need a place where functional philosophy can evolve through the participation of men and women who wish to think, do research, and question why? Do we need a place where functional philosophy can operate and help the community at large? The above questions and more will be addressed in the remainder of this chapter. Let us begin by addressing the negative side of our world. What does Ananke say about starvation and disease? Why starvation and disease? It is a sad state of affairs that a world of such abundance has massive pain and abundance as well. How can this Ananke have a goal of peace and equilibrium while allowing such pain and suffering to transpire? What possible mechanism can be operating in order to justify this apparent injustice? Unfortunately, the answer is not easy to digest. Starvation has always been prevalent in the areas of the world where the environment can no longer support the species. It has always been a mechanism to reduce the population in a given region. As the population weakens, disease enters the picture and the population dies. Animals, plants, and man are victims of this painful malady. The balance between the environment and the life form must prevail. The goal of balance cannot be achieved if a life form cannot even feed itself. However, it is the contrast of Western wealth that makes this reality a nightmare. If we all were on the brink of starvation, then we would not care as much. We would be concerned with our own welfare for the most part. Therefore, it becomes apparent then that in the last 100 years or so, an obvious imbalance has been developing. Through the technology of television and newspapers, we are becoming more and more aware of the problem. It is becoming harder and harder to be truly happy and content as we look at our starving brothers in their misery. Those of us who are relatively well off are becoming more and more concerned with how we can help to reduce their pain and consequently ours. This awareness and concern is good. Ananke is compelling us to grow to new levels of compassion and wisdom. As we achieve this wisdom, we will be able to construct a world balance that will lead to peace and harmony for all. Thus, it is in our own self-interest and the self-interest of the Ananke to learn how to help others. But how can we help in an Ananke way? According to the primary patterns, there is only one way. We should help others by getting them back into balance in a least negative manner. We should help others in a win-win way. Giving food and shelter without a long-range plan is a futile effort. The starving people of the world should be organized in a manner of self-sufficiency and to the benefit of those who help them. Business enterprise is the only lasting solution. The wealthy business people of the world should organize the third world labor for the benefit of all. Modern technology should be shared with them. The starving should be fed, educated, and utilized. This is not to say that they should be exploited. They should give their labor in return for food, shelter, health, education, and knowledge. In this manner, the starving people of the world could reach a more prosperous and rewarding life eventually. This is not an overnight cure, but it can work. It takes time to justify the imbalance. Ananke takes time to reach its goal. Indeed, Ananke has started the process. Numerous enterprises have materially developed third world countries. Although exploitation has been the norm, the people are not starving to death. This is not to say that the help machine has been perfected. It is a beginning to an evolution of help. Eventually, it'll be realized that educating the people is more of an advantage than merely utilizing their physical strength. This lesson has been learned by the United States, and it will be learned elsewhere through a process of healthy competition and profitable gain. But what can the average person do in order to promote this plan of attack? Should we merely give money to organizations that promote the win-win solution? Those of us who can afford to give money should, but only to organizations that have the intent to help the people achieve a self-sufficient state of affairs. We should give to those groups that prove within a reasonable doubt that they will help and not confiscate the funds for their own benefits. These groups should supply the verifiable financial information such that administrative expenses are separated from the real help dollars. These groups should be audited periodically by a third party in order to weed out the fakers from the feeders. If the average person financially helped, it would still be up to good business to perform the final lasting cure. But are the business organizations benevolent enough in order to help in a non-exploitive manner? Is the business structure conducive to an atmosphere of peace and prosperity for all? Is big business following the way of Ananke? Is big business good? 100 years ago, large corporations did not exist. Through an evolutionary process of survival and environmental selection, they have emerged as the norm. Corporate life is a reality for most of us. But is this reality good? Does the corporation promote our welfare, or does it exploit us? There can be no doubt that exploitation was dominant in the past. Unions were built on the injustice of corporate management. But let us examine the achievements of this quote-unquote creature. Most of us do not starve. Most of us do not need more shelter or clothes or health care. We are not groveling in mud and disease. We are materially more prosperous than our parents. We are better off than our brothers in the third world countries. We may not be happy, but this pain does not come from our bodies anymore. Yes, big business has done a lot of good in a mere 50 years or so, and it has the capacity to do a lot more good for all the people involved with this enterprise. But is this enough? Should the evolution stop? Is big business good enough? The answer most certainly is no. Big business is still reactive to short-term profit as its primary goal. The stock market reacts to anticipated profit per share in the short run. The value of a company is greatly reduced if profit per share does not rise with each year of its existence. If profit falls, the stock tumbles. The owners do not like this outcome and remove officers who are responsible. Therefore, short-term self-interest prevails throughout the structure. So what can be done? What other goals should be valued aside from profit? The answer is simple. Peace and harmony throughout the corporate structure should be promoted. This is in line with Ananke. Reasonable cooperation should be motivated through positive means. Techniques should be developed to reward those who cooperate in a positive manner and who promote the welfare of all. Through increased voluntary cooperation and an increased atmosphere of true positivism, enormous profit will emerge. Happy workers produce more. Happy workers don't get sick or quit their jobs. Happy workers are loyal to the company that promotes the happy life. But what techniques can be developed? Isn't the weekly paycheck enough? Unfortunately, the weekly constant paycheck does not motivate cooperation or a spirit of win-win. If a new person is hired, then what is the motivation for a coworker to help him or her? Helping is perceived as a lose-win situation for the average individual. The average worker is motivated not to help. The average worker is motivated to learn the job, do the least amount possible, and take home the paycheck. So what can be done to produce a true feeling of win-win? Let us examine the facts in order to arrive at a positive solution. First, an individual is self-interested. Any interaction between this individual and another must appeal to this self-interest. Second, people want money and the time to enjoy it. Third, people want to feel good about their lives. They want to feel that they are promoting good feelings and situations in their work environment. Lastly, people need their health and physical strength in order to endure the stress of their work and to enjoy the reward of their leisure. In order to achieve these goals while retaining necessary management control and direction, the following is suggested. 1. Create a system of corporate cooperation checks, CCCs or C-cubes. These checks are issued for a given amount of corporate cooperation units that correspond to particular extra effort assignments. 2. These C-cubes are utilized by all the employees and management who require cooperation beyond the normal efforts of a given worker. 3. The C-cubed units must be given away to have any value. They expire weekly or biweekly or periodically depending on the nature of the business and management policy. They have no value when hoarded beyond the expiration date. In any case, they have no value to the distributor other than gaining cooperation within a specified period of time. They only have value to the person who cooperates and receives these C-cubed units. 4. Quarterly, a bonus is issued which reflects the profit of the organization. Increased profit should yield an increased bonus. This bonus is distributed based on the C-cubes that the individual obtains. A person's C-cube units divided by the total C-cubed units outstanding reflects the piece of the pie that is due. 5. An individual may also convert the C-cubed units that he receives into cash or extra vacation time depending on his needs and C-cube vacation policy. C-cube units may be redeemed quarterly or postponed into a more profitable quarter. If postponed, then the C-cubed units outstanding would necessarily increase. In the light of the above scheme, let us examine some of the ramifications. Necessarily, a new employee needs help. Therefore, he or she should be given a quota of C-cubed units periodically. With these units, the individual can purchase cooperation from his fellow employees, both in his office and across the country. Policy can guide the C-cubed units that are distributed for certain help tasks. Management can supplement C-cubed units if appropriate for extraordinary tasks. In this manner, the new employee gets up to speed faster and is truly welcomed by all of his coworkers, who of course want his C-cubed units. Some members of the company are necessarily self-sufficient. They need no C-cubed units to distribute. They need no cooperation from others. Secretaries are a good example of this phenomenon. Everyone needs their help, but they don't need anyone's help in return. Once they are up to speed, their motivation is to do the least amount of work possible while satisfying their perceived boss, their manager. Programmers and software experts are another case in point. Obviously, policy should dictate only a small amount of C-cubes to be given to these individuals for distribution. On the other hand, the sales force, project leaders, and management necessarily require abundant C-cubes in order to gain positive cooperation. If these individuals allocate the units appropriately, then upper management can reward them with C-cubed units as well. In this manner, all personnel would be positively rewarded for their extra effort cooperation. They could convert their cooperative efforts into extra money or extra vacation time. The employees would quite naturally be happier. They would be helping others while helping themselves. A truly positive atmosphere would prevail. Upper management would increase its control, and profits would be maximized and shared by all. But how could a company introduce this system in a slow and fair manner? It is easy. Those workers not under union contract would sacrifice part of their raise in order to have the chance at receiving the equivalent of triple their apparent loss. Those that cooperate the most would receive C-cubed units far in excess of their sacrificed raise. Even if they received the equivalent of their gamble, they would still have the added convertibility of vacation time. In this manner, a fair division between base salary and C-cubed unit salary can be achieved eventually. All those who cooperate and help each other would receive more money and vacation time. All those who do not cooperate would leave the company of their own free will, since they would not make enough money for their liking. Thus, a positive atmosphere of cooperative competition would prevail and profits would be optimized. As a final note, it should be mentioned that the above scheme is stressful in an exciting way. Physical strength would be an advantage to the C-cubed system. Therefore, it is in the self-interest of the company to supply or promote physical fitness programs. Perhaps employees who go to the gym 3 times a week could be rewarded by C-cubed units that are allocated by management, based on proof that they went and did a workout. In this manner, the corporation and the worker could benefit in the long term. Thus, big business can evolve to new systems of organized life. It is in the self-interest of corporations to find ways of promoting peace, balance, and positive cooperation. Happy workers do not quit. They produce more and generate maximum profit. The corporation would necessarily optimize its profit profile. The goal would no longer be short-term gain. The goal would be positive cooperation that would generate optimal profit by producing a positive balance among all. Life would be good for all the employees. Prosperity would prevail. There would be no need for drugs, alcohol, or binge eating, since the work environment would be fun and constructive. Therefore, big business has been good and can get better. Big business can restructure itself, thereby producing a better life for all of us. Once restructured, the large corporations can be utilized in order to help the third world countries in a profitable manner. They can harvest the third world labor, educate them, and organize them into systems of life that are good. They can teach all of us the benefits of positive cooperation. They can be the instruments of Ananke if they change the priority of their goals. If they promote a positive cooperative balance among all, then they will have their abundant profits as well. If they go with the flow of the Ananke and produce needed products in the above manner, then peace and prosperity will prevail for all of us. Until the ideal corporation evolves, we must all do our share to promote positive cooperation. We must network with the givers of the world, thereby benefiting them as well as ourselves. By promoting a giver network, we exclude the takers and absorbers, thereby teaching them that it is better to be a giver to give. It is better to give to a giver than receive from anybody else. By promoting a giver network, we help those who deserve to be helped. We help those who are willing to help others. A giver network is a win-win situation. But how do we distinguish the givers from the takers and absorbers in this world? How do we form this giver network efficiently? And I think we'll stop here in chapter 6. It's 32 minutes, and therefore I'll see you next time at the next part. I think we're up to, this was 13, we'll be up to number 14 on the next part. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.